Washington, D.C. was supposed to be celebrating tonight. The White House Correspondents' Dinner, one of the most anticipated events on the political calendar, had gathered the most powerful figures in American politics, media, and government under one roof at the Washington Hilton Hotel. President Donald Trump was there. Melania was there. Vice President J.D. Vance, cabinet secretaries, congressional leaders, and hundreds of journalists had all taken their seats for what was billed as a night of speeches, laughter, and the kind of rare, unguarded moments that only this event produces. Then the gunshots rang out. In a moment that shook the room and immediately sent shockwaves across the country, shots were fired in the hallway of the Washington Hilton Hotel, just outside the main ballroom where the dinner was underway. Secret Service agents moved with immediate and overwhelming force. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump were rushed from the stage and evacuated from the building. Speaker Mike Johnson was seen sprinting through the corridor flanked by agents. RFK Jr., CNN's Wolf Blitzer, and dozens of other high-profile guests scrambled for cover. Police officers threw themselves over civilians. Glass shattered. Screams filled the concourse. Within minutes, the event was canceled. One individual, armed, according to eyewitnesses, with a rifle and ammunition magazines, had attempted to breach the metal detectors at the venue's entrance and opened fire in the vicinity of Secret Service personnel. Law enforcement returned fire. The suspect was taken down. Reports initially conflicted. Some outlets reported the shooter was dead, others confirmed only that he was in custody. What was not in dispute? This was a direct, armed assault at an event hosting the President of the United States. Wolf Blitzer, one of the most seasoned journalists in American television, was feet away from the gunman when the shooting began. He later described hearing at least 6 loud, booming gunshots at close range before police officers threw him to the ground to protect him. This was not a drill. This was not a false alarm. This was an armed attack at the highest-profile political gathering in Washington. Tonight, we break down exactly what happened, how the security apparatus responded, and what this moment means for the safety of the American presidency. If this kind of real-time, in-depth analysis matters to you, subscribe now. We are just getting started. To understand the gravity of what happened tonight, you have to understand what the White House Correspondents' Dinner actually is, and why its security has always been treated as an extraordinary operational challenge. The White House Correspondents Association has hosted this annual dinner since 1921. It is one of the few events in American public life where the President of the United States sits in a large, open ballroom alongside hundreds of journalists, entertainers, and public figures in a semi-formal, relatively relaxed setting. For the Secret Service, it has always represented a significant logistical and security challenge, a massive public gathering with a fixed location, a published schedule, and a known guest of honor. The Washington Hilton Hotel, where tonight's dinner was held, carries its own dark chapter in American presidential history. It was outside this exact building, on the T Street side, that on March 30th, 1981, John Hinckley Jr. shot President Ronald Reagan as he walked to his limousine. Reagan survived, but Press Secretary James Brady was permanently disabled. That assassination attempt reshaped Secret Service protocols around presidential movements at public venues for decades. Tonight, those protocols were put to their most serious test in over 40 years at this location. In the days leading up to tonight's event, the atmosphere was already charged. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt had appeared on Fox News just hours before the dinner began, previewing the president's planned remarks with characteristic energy. "There will be some shots fired tonight in the room," she said, using it as a figure of speech. A preview of Trump's anticipated comedic sharpness at the podium. Those words now carry a meaning no one intended. The dinner had been fully underway. Appetizers had been served. Guests were relaxed. The program was moments away from its main event when, in the hallway just outside the ballroom, on the concourse level near the restrooms and the building entrance, a man carrying a rifle and ammunition magazines approached the security checkpoint. What happened next unfolded in seconds. The suspect moved toward the magnetometers, the metal detectors that form the first hard layer of security at any event of this nature. He did not stop. He opened fire. Secret Service agents and Metropolitan Police returned fire. Guests near the staircase reported hearing multiple loud bangs. The glass walls lining the stairway shattered and rained down on people ascending from the ballroom below. Inside the main ballroom, many guests did not immediately hear the shots. What alerted them was the reaction of the agents in the room, the sudden, unmistakable movement of trained personnel dropping into defensive postures. That visual triggered immediate panic. The evacuation of President Trump began within moments. Here is what we know, sourced from eyewitness accounts, official statements, and on-the-ground reporting, presented as clearly as the available evidence allows. The shooting took place in the hallway and entrance concourse of the Washington Hilton Hotel, not inside the main ballroom itself. This distinction matters. The suspect did not breach the ballroom. The security perimeter, while violently tested, held at its outer layer. According to eyewitness Erin Thelman, a military veteran who was attending the dinner, she had stepped out of the ballroom to call her son when she heard 3 loud bangs she immediately identified as gunfire. She then saw a man fall directly in front of her. He was on the ground and appeared to be carrying a rifle and ammunition magazines. Thelman then moved downstairs and observed security personnel drawing their sidearms. CNN's Wolf Blitzer was one of the most prominent eyewitnesses. He had left the ballroom during the dinner, after appetizers were served, to use the restroom, which required walking up the stairs to the concourse level. As he was walking back toward the ballroom entrance, the shooting began just feet from where he was standing. In his own words, he heard at least 6 gunshots, describing them as loud booms, before police officers physically threw him to the ground and covered him with their bodies. He was then directed into the men's restroom, where approximately 15 other men were sheltered in place, doors locked, until the scene was secured. CNN's Brianna Kehlar reported speaking with a source who had been heading upstairs from the ballroom at the moment of the shooting. That individual described the glass wall along the staircase shattering as bullets struck it, raining glass down from above. He retreated immediately back into the ballroom. From inside the ballroom, the sound was not clearly audible to all guests, but the reaction of Secret Service agents in the room made the situation unmistakable. Fox News reported that the suspect had attempted to rush or charge the metal detectors at the venue entrance and opened fire in the direction of Secret Service personnel. Agents returned fire. The suspect was struck and taken down. President Trump's first public statement came at 9:17 p.m. Eastern Time, posted to social media. He confirmed the shooter had been apprehended, praised Secret Service and law enforcement, and initially indicated he wished for the event to continue. Approximately 20 minutes later, he posted a follow-up stating that law enforcement had requested he leave the premises, consistent with standard protocol, and that he would hold a press conference from the White House briefing room within 30 minutes. He confirmed the First Lady, Vice President, and all cabinet members were unharmed. The event was officially canceled. The host, comedian Wanda Sykes, had briefly addressed the audience indicating the program would resume, but that announcement was overtaken by events as law enforcement completed their assessment. One confirmed fact that anchors everything. This was not a random incident. A man with a rifle walked toward the security perimeter of an event hosting the President of the United States and opened fire. When security professionals analyze an event like tonight, the first question they ask is not simply what happened. It is what the incident reveals about gaps, assumptions, and future vulnerabilities. The Washington Hilton is not an improvised venue. It is one of the most frequently used locations for high-profile Washington events and has been the site of the Correspondents' Dinner for decades. The Secret Service knows this building in extraordinary detail. The security plan for an event hosting a sitting president involves layered perimeters, outer cordons managed by Metropolitan Police, magnetometer checkpoints staffed by uniformed and plainclothes agents, interior protection details, counter-assault teams, and a rapid evacuation protocol that was visibly and effectively executed tonight. And yet, a man with a rifle got close enough to fire multiple shots in the vicinity of those checkpoints. This raises serious and unavoidable questions. How did the suspect arrive at that checkpoint armed with a long weapon and ammunition? Was there a failure at an outer perimeter layer that allowed him to reach the magnetometers? Or did he approach and produce the weapon at that point, meaning the checkpoint itself performed as intended by stopping him before he could enter, but the confrontation still produced a live fire incident in a public space occupied by civilians? These are questions that will drive the Secret Service's after-action review in the coming days, and they are questions Congress will ask loudly. What is clear from tonight is that the evacuation protocol worked. The speed with which President Trump and other principals were moved from the stage and out of the building reflects exactly the kind of immediate, decisive response that Secret Service training demands. Eyewitness footage showed agents moving with urgency and control, not panic. Speaker Johnson was escorted out at pace. The principals were removed before the situation could escalate further. The broader security implication, however, is the one that will dominate discussions in intelligence and law enforcement circles for weeks. The Correspondents' Dinner is a target-rich environment by design. It is the nature of the event. Hundreds of the most prominent figures in American government and media in a single room, on a publicly known date, at a publicly known location. That combination has always been a security challenge. Tonight demonstrated it is also an active one. Additionally, the historical resonance of the location cannot be dismissed. The fact that this incident occurred at the same hotel where Ronald Reagan was shot in 1981 will not be lost on anyone, including those who study the psychology of individuals who seek notoriety through political violence. Whether tonight's suspect was motivated by ideology, grievance, or something else entirely remains under active investigation. What is not in question, American presidential security was directly tested tonight, and the next Correspondents' Dinner, which President Trump has already indicated will be rescheduled within 30 days, will look very different. In the immediate hours and days ahead, several developments will define how this story unfolds, and how seriously the country reckons with what happened tonight. First, the identity and motive of the suspect. As of this reporting, those details remain officially unconfirmed. Law enforcement will work through the night to establish who this individual is, where he came from, how he acquired his weapon, and most critically, why he was there. Was this politically motivated? Was it targeted at the president specifically? Was it an act of ideological violence, personal grievance, or something else? The answers to those questions will shape everything that follows, legally, politically, and in terms of public understanding. Second, the president's press conference. Trump indicated he would speak from the White House briefing room within 30 minutes of departing the venue. That statement, whatever it contains, will be the administration's first formal accounting of the night. The tone he sets will matter enormously, both domestically and in terms of how allies and adversaries abroad read the moment. Third, congressional response. Expect immediate calls for a full review of Secret Service protocols around high-profile public events. Some members will push for the Correspondents' Dinner format itself to be reconsidered. Others will focus on the broader question of political violence in America and what conditions are producing individuals willing to carry rifles to events hosting the president. Let us be clear about what we know tonight and what we do not. What we know: shots were fired at the Washington Hilton Hotel during the White House Correspondents' Dinner. A suspect armed with a rifle and ammunition attempted to breach the security perimeter and opened fire. Law enforcement responded. The suspect was neutralized and taken into custody. President Trump, the First Lady, the Vice President, and cabinet members are confirmed safe. The event was canceled. What we do not yet know: the confirmed identity of the shooter, his precise motive, the full accounting of casualties, if any, beyond the suspect, and the complete forensic picture of exactly how the security perimeter was approached and breached. Two scenarios now sit in front of us. In the first, this was a lone individual, disturbed, grievance-driven, without broader coordination, and tonight's incident, while terrifying, reflects the persistent and tragic reality of American gun violence intersecting with political events. The system held. The president is safe. The investigation will be thorough and contained. In the second scenario, the one that intelligence agencies will be working urgently to rule out, tonight was something more organized, something planned, something that warrants a deeper, broader investigation into networks, communications, and possible foreign or domestic extremist involvement. We do not yet know which scenario is true. What we know is that tonight, at one of the most symbolically significant events in American civic life, someone brought a rifle and used it. The country deserves a full accounting, and we will stay on this story until we have one. If you want to be the first to know as new information breaks, subscribe now. Hit the notification bell. We will not stop covering this until every answer is on the table.